It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Ann has the day off. He's got his second injection. He's not feeling too well, but Stacy's here and Jeff's here. And guess what? A special appearance by Kevin Marks. We will talk about the Google I/O keynote. We've all got lots of thoughts about all the things Google announced and didn't announce. Kevin will talk a little bit about the problem with the AI demo that Google did, and it is a pretty big problem. And then a $40,000 bed. It's all coming up next. Plus a DVD screensaver from Google. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 612, recorded Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. Waymo Confused. This Week in Google is brought to you by Nureva. Getting your audio ready for meetings back in the office, Nureva Audio is designed for distancing. It automatically adapts to new room configurations, so you're ready for the new normal. And whatever comes next. Learn more at nureva.com/twit. And by Untuck It. Father's Day's coming up, and the perfect gift is an Untuck It shirt for the father in your life. Use code TWIT for 20% off your first purchase at untuckit.com. It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Aunt Pruitt just got his sequel injection, so he's taking the day off. He's not feeling 100%. Bless his soul. But Jeff Jarvis and Stacey Higginbotham and I are fully inoculated and feeling fine. Stacey Higginbotham from StaceyOnIoT.com. Her great newsletter there. You must subscribe. And the IoT podcast with Kevin Toffel. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. I had a caller ask about helium, rather. We'll talk about that in a second. But I do want to introduce the other guy. What's his name?
I got my moral panic shots. I am inoculated against moral panic.
Oh, it's about time somebody did that. He's the director of the Town Night Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Blob Opera School of Graduate Journalism at the City University.
Where did that come from?
Blob Opera. We were doing
what show did I miss that?
You missed yesterday's fantastic Google I/O keynote. That's what you missed.
And the music beforehand was actually better.
And that's hard to say because it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't bad.
I didn't miss the keynote.
Oh, you missed the Blob Opera. I just wasn't
with y'all. Oh, okay.
Did you see the Blob Opera stuff? Do we have some of that we can play? I guess Blob Opera has been updated to feature more music, and they had a performing group. Here it is. I have it. Tune Yards performing with the Blob Opera, and this was the pre-show. It's a machine learning experiment, and I guess that means they modified Blob Opera so that it would work with her singing. So there she is in her socks, rainbow socks with the drums. She's got a bassist who's... So I'm going to zip ahead.
Way forward, yeah. Oh, yeah. There, I think I see them.
I just ahead of time want to apologize to the listeners at home for this. So this is a... Okay, that's enough.
That's enough, yeah, okay. It was,
more than
moment
ample.
It worked.
More than ample. Well, it was just the pre-show, so it's... although I have to say...
Yeah, I skipped that.
Yeah, rightly so. And you made I think we were all a little disappointed, Jeff. You wanted, I know, a new Chromebook.
Well, even that aside.
You didn't get that. You didn't get a pony.
No.
There was no mention of any new products except the return of Wear OS, which puzzled everybody. Samsung has apparently decided to abandon Tizen its own operating system that it adopted for its watches and said, it's going to be the next big thing. Probably because they didn't want to be an Android house or an Android warehouse, and now they're going back to Wear.
No, I thought Wear and Tizen were going to become the same.
No.
Like they were going to.
No, no. I thought so too. It was unclear, but then I read some reviews and various things, and it apparently seems. Well, let's go to the Verge. Chris Welch.
Let's go to the tape.
Let's go to the tape. It does say Google and Samsung will merge together their Wear OS and Tizen platforms into a single operating system called Wear. But no, it's Wear. It's not. What does that even mean? I've read this in several other places that basically it's Wear. It's not Tizen Wear or Tie Wear or Wearzen.
Oh, we were calling it. Let's see, what were we calling it?
We had a few names for it.
Wear Tybit. Wear Tybit. That's what we.
Yeah, because there is Fitbit in it. Yeah. So they say they're going to continue to support Tizen for at least 3 years after this new product launches. There will be some features from Samsung, like the watch face designer tool, that will make the migration. According to The Verge, the unknowns is the underlying operating system closer to Wear OS or closer to Tizen? I'm going to tell you right now, since it's running apps from the Play Store for Wear OS, it's Wear OS. Tizen was a very stripped down. I don't see this really as being anything.
Tizen wasn't for smartwatches, though. Tizen was basically Samsung's OS for everything.
Yeah, they were going to replace Android with it. And they didn't.
Well, Android, they were going to run it on their smart televisions, appliances.
Right. I think they realized really the big problem, at least for a watch, is if you don't have the apps, it kind of, the watch isn't, it's limited to what Samsung ships with the watch. So, and it is the case.
Then we
probably,
were wrong.
Well, it's unclear, but we'll see when they ship. I want to guess, given that it's running apps for Wear OS, that it's Wear OS.
But Wear OS sucks.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
Well, no, it really does. And Kevin and I, we talk about this a lot because I've been a Fitbit user forever. But Wear OS, we can blame the lack of hardware. Like Qualcomm didn't update its silicon for a while.
You absolutely
so maybe
blame
that's
Qualcomm.
why.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
And
maybe the advantage of Tizen, because Tizen runs very well on. Basically the same kind of chips and Samsung Gear watches. It runs fine because I feel like it's a smaller, simpler OS. But boy,
that's what I was kind of hopeful for.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, but if it's going to run Wear OS apps, that's the chief purpose of an operating system.
Yeah,
is running the apps. I mean, it's not like there's a big file system with your hardware. Yeah, it's not like there's a big file system to manage or anything like that on your watch. I have to think that it's basically going to be Wear. Maybe Google, there's probably two things happening. Google is letting Samsung save face because it is a little embarrassing. But also Google realizes people like Stacy hate Wear OS. So that by saying we're merging with Tizen, they're maybe giving people hope. And you're right. Fitbit was a big part of this story, wasn't it? Because Google is now officially owns Fitbit. And this is kind of the debut of whatever it is they're going to do with Fitbit.
It's a terrible debut if you don't know. If we're all like, what does this mean? What's happening? Well, typical Google communication.
They didn't announce anything really because they didn't say we'll be shipping a watch with this new Tios, Tiewear,
Tiebit, where's Ibin?
In March or something. They didn't say anything. They didn't even mention a Pixel phone or a Chrome OS. It was mostly demos of products that aren't even out of the lab.
Exactly. It wasn't even.
Well,
were you disappointed they didn't mention chip or whatever it's called now?
No,
CSA?
because that's all part of. They have a separate smart home keynote that's going to happen at 4:15 today.
But shouldn't they, if they're so proud of it, shouldn't they mention it in the keynote?
Google's so big. I felt like this keynote was more like trying to explain how Google has been and will be continuing to use AI to
there was a lot of that.
It better. So the photography, the taking people out of photographs, the TPU chat, the
Did you watch the developer keynote afterwards? I was busy, unfortunately. I couldn't.
Same here.
I watched a bit of the developer keynote. I had an event yesterday, so I was having a hard time.
Yeah. Some people in our chat room who did watch it said, "Yeah, you didn't miss anything."
Oh no, really? No.
It is possible,
terrible.
and I suspect this is true, that this was more of a traditional developer keynote, and that a lot of what we have questions about will be revealed in subsequent tracks later in Google I/O. Like, is there a Wear
does
OS
tend
track?
to do that.
Yeah.
They've got. I got excited about the Flutter track, but that was just me.
Well, you know what? You and Paul Thurrott are both excited about Flutter.
Yeah.
The other thing that longtime viewers of the show will have noticed is, now you may remember before you, there was a woman named Gina Trapani, much beloved developer, who wrote a book about a Google product, Google Wave, that was killed almost the same time the book came out.
Yeah, poor Gina.
Poor Gina. But Google Wave...
She was the expert in something dead.
Know. Google Wave, but you know what? We were all really excited about Google Wave. The idea that that a document wasn't just this monolithic word processing or spreadsheet or slide document. A document was a container for a variety of data types.
And living, and that it was
collaboration.
Updated. It was collaborative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Google announced basically, as far as I'm concerned, and we still haven't seen all the details, the return of Wave with a new technology for Google Workspace. And I'll pull up the blog.
You're calling Canvas, but not to be confused with Canvas, the rendering mechanism. But now it's kind of branded Canvas.
So you can mention people in it, which is interesting, right? It will add people. Docs no longer have pages. You can put emoji reactions, inclusive language recommendations, smarter meeting notes, connected checklists. Connected means, by the way, that you can assign checklist items to other people and see them in Google Tasks. Table templates, which include voting. Your Meet will show up directly within your document.
So rather than embedding your document in your video meeting, you now embed your video meeting
instead
in
of
your
screen
document.
sharing. Yeah, you're actually in the document. Live captioning and live translations, Google does that very well. That'll be built in 5 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, and of course English. There'll be a timeline view in Sheets. So, as I remember, you're the queen of the PERT charts and the
PERT
Gantt
charts. Gantt chart.
So you'll like that.
It's kind of, this seems very akin to what Trello was doing with their strategy, or is it Atlassian that owns Trello?
Mm-hmm.
Atlassian was doing with Trello and having that become a way to pull in all the information you're working with into one place so you can work on it. So that's kind of...
And we went down a little trip down memory lane, Paul Thurrott and I, because Trello isn't it's the most recent version of this, but this has been something companies have been trying since the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Apple had a plan to do something with IBM that the idea was, instead of having document-centric workflow, instead of having, let's see, how did they put it? Microsoft had OLE, object linking and embedding. That was in Windows 95. The idea was, instead of being file-based workflow, I guess is how you'd say it, it would be document-based workflow. Instead of having an operating system, it's all in the document. This is an ancient idea. Jeff Raskin, who was the kind of the spiritual father of the Macintosh, after he got kicked out of Apple, started doing an operating system that was completely just all a document. There was, remember ClarisWorks, with an early Apple company that was a office, but instead of having a word processor separate from a spreadsheet, you would embed those tools in whatever document you were working in. I mean, I can go on and on. That's enough examples. It's been tried many times, and it's always failed, I should point out. I don't know if that's because humans, it's too complicated. I don't know why, but maybe the time has come. Sheets,
maybe because when you're trying to...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm like thinking about sociological reasons it wouldn't work based on how we tend to work and the type of work we do. But I'm with you, yes.
For some reason.
Stacey, what I noted yesterday is that this has got to be a window onto how they work at Google.
That is true.
Or would like to.
That makes.
Or would like to, yeah.
Well, see, that's the question.
Well, I mean,
is this coming from users saying we want to do this, or we are doing this and we'd like a better way to do it? Or is it more likely coming from operating system philosophers who are saying,
well said.
No, I do think we're hitting a point where we're trying to work more collaboratively. The tools have gotten good enough. Like, think about 10 years ago, if you were typing in a Google Doc, you might feel uncomfortable because someone's watching you type, right? Now it's inane to think that you would be, if you're collaborating, not like if you're writing an article, but if you're collaborating with someone, it's crazy to pass a document back and forth, And so I feel like it's both a chicken and egg problem. The people, it's a process problem.
Right.
People have to get acclimated to this. And I think we're getting there because we're used to collaborating and we're having to pull in information and things from everywhere. Writing is no longer the way you communicate an idea. Think about video, think about, tweets. I mean, you may hate them, but so I think we're not 100% there yet, but I look at the type of presentations my daughter does and they're very different from things that I used to do. And I don't know.
Name a few things there, Stacey. What kinds of things does she do and do they like to do?
So she does she still writes research papers, but when she's presenting a paper, she automatically does something in Prezi, right? And
Prezi is actually another way. That's kind of what Prezi is, isn't it?
Yeah. She's very
it's the different
adaptive.
Paths there that make a difference.
Yeah. But you can embed a lot of different things into Prezi too. You zoom around. So Prezi it's a presentation tool that is it's like the hippie PowerPoint.
But it
gives you motion
sickness. But it's not just a presentation tool. She uses it not just to present, but she also, when she's collaborating with people, they have flowchart software that they'll use to share. And
it's an organizational tool, isn't it?
It's
right.
I love Prezi.
It's just a different way of working.
Yeah.
I guess
I love it.
Because I don't work that way. So I'm I just write a memo or send an email.
You're linear.
That might be the problem,
right?
But that might be the problem. Is humans are kind of linear. By the way, have you been dying for a way?
I agree. No, I don't think so either. I think Stacey's right here. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you are boring old man, but
no. Stacey said she was.
I think our work product is historic. Writing an article is linear, right?
Right.
But
because the typewriter demanded it.
Yeah, but when you're collaborating to build software, you don't actually have to be linear.
That's what's changed is that and that's what this is for. This is for people working in teams, not you and me working solo. But by the way, if you've always wanted to create a spreadsheet from within Google Chat, that is also going to be possible.
So Kevin and I because when we
what a fun chatter that is.
Hey, you know what? I've got an idea. Let's create a spreadsheet.
Think about how you pull together the show. That's a collaboration. Right now we're sending.
Yep, that's true.
But think about if
we could be the show could be in the rundown.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yes, that, but also
Jason's head just exploded.
No, Jason is excited.
John,
think about it. You could pull the video from
rundown. Put a little bubble of me in the rundown.
I'm sorry, Jason.
I think it is possibly a better way to work. I think it's culturally difficult because we are used to linear, and maybe it was just because we had typewriters. That's all we could do.
There's also tool fatigue. Well, when you think about it, Leo, the typewriter, right? So the typewriter came out in about 1880. I'm working on this research right now, right? And that was the first
I love that you know this.
Of a keyboard.
Wow.
And so the extension, Barry McLuhan, right? The extension of the brain to the fingers to the keyboard to the page. And it changed our expectation for writing because now writing mimicked publishing. It looked finished. It changed the whole nature. And you couldn't, scratching out was no. You had to have this clean thing, this clean continuous thing, page after page after page. So it had in fact, I'm reading a book somewhere here on how there was a typewriter century and that it affected everybody's writing. And now we're breaking out of that, right? So now Stacey's daughter is the vanguard here of a different way to think about thoughts.
Well, and I think also that in many businesses there are teams, there are programming teams, and there are other teams that are already collaborating in unique ways. You know, that's people hated it, but that's what the idea of the open office was, that you could go, hey, Joe, are you working on that login screen? I'm having some trouble over here. That kind of thing, that you could kind of collaborate that way. I'm going to open this up to our Discord stage for anybody who is currently working that way or has any thoughts about working this way. We are probably we're all solo operators, right? So, maybe it'd be better if we got some people.
Wait, where's our stage? No, I'm confused.
It's the East Side Live. It says over in the left.
Okay, right.
Under
Sorry.
live.
Okay, yes.
There's Jeff.
While we're doing that,
yes.
So I just got this book too, The Filing Cabinet: A Vertical History of Information.
Oh, Jesus!
Right.
See, but if you think about it, that's the file system on your computer is a derivative of that.
Yes, even the icons, right?
Yeah.
So this is how we thought for not that long.
And only because the physical world was organized that way, because probably it was easy to manufacture or something.
Oh, there's tons of articles about like how the way we think about our information storage and retrieval systems is actually modeled on how we model the brain. So it has like physical correlation to how we think about.
You're kidding? Well, then that bodes poorly for this.
Well, right now we're all into neuromorphic computing, but before that we had different.
What?
I can find the article, I guess, and send it to you because it's really fascinating.
That's the fundamental question, though, and in a way, is are we working that way because those are the objects we could build, and now that we're in a digital world and we can build something different, should we try to build something different? But if you're saying it's not a reflection of what we could build, it's a reflection of how our brain works, then any attempt to change that is going to be doomed to failure unless we can change our brains as well.
I think it's a function of the workloads, maybe not how. I think our brains are pretty adaptable. I think it's the type of work is probably more relevant there.
Well, that's probably true too. I mean, the way we work modern work is not, there's probably no analog to any kind of work, even I guess in the industrial era, and there's been more, I don't know, if you're building a cathedral, I guess you're all collaborating on a project, but it feels.
Well, I think the big mistake was to think that computers would mimic intelligence and mimic human intelligence, and that made the goal entirely wrong. Well, instead it's an aid to our work.
And this was the big debate Jeff Hawkins had. He was at Palm. Computer handwriting recognition, most notoriously with the Newton, was a flop because they were trying to get computers to recognize human handwriting. And Jeff said, you know what, we should do something else. What if we slightly modified our handwriting? In other words, accommodated ourselves to the computer, and he created graffiti, which was if anybody who had a Palm knew, that was a slightly modified human alphabet that the computer could do much better with. So it turned out, Hawkins said, it's easier for a human to adapt to the computer than for the computer to adapt to the human.
So, Stacey, let me amuse you. I just got an academic paper from 2012. I hadn't read it. I just saw a link to it. By Rachel Plotnick, The Case of the Electric Push Button. And it was a moral panic about buttons. And they used the phrase moral panic, not me, because it kind of hid the technology behind. You hit this button and you don't know what's happening. You don't know how it's happening. It's very analogous to today, that it's a black box or a black button, and the electric buttons, were frightening.
People hate abstraction, but as our world gets more complicated, we have to have it.
That's exactly heuristics. Yeah.
And
we have a hand up. I
put in.
I know. I've invited him to the stage, Wergen to the stage, but he hasn't.
I put the link in the chat. It's a New Yorker article from 2019, and it's part of their review things. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope I'm not out of New Yorker.
It's actually, to me, this is a fascinating discussion. I'm sure we're putting everybody else to sleep, but I find this, well, it's fundamental to computing. Yes. And is it? I think you're right, Stacey. Your point is exactly right. That the human brain is fairly plastic. We've already learned a lot of. We've all gotten used to being on Zoom. We've already learned to change some of the ways we do things. But the question is how plastic. And there is some evidence that, despite the fact that computer scientists have been trying to do this for more than 30 years, and it's never worked, maybe Google can do it. It's puzzling to me since they killed Wave. They would now. I mean, this is Wave, right, Jeff?
It is. And I don't think it's not a case, Leo, that Wave wasn't ready at the time. The concepts, I think, right? The concepts could have been done then. Stacey, you're Stacey.
That's okay.
Gina, you're talking about.
Pre-Stacey, Gina, was
she was
showing
totally
people how to use
about it. She got it, but and maybe because she was a computer programmer and had the ability to kind of not only grok it but use it. There is a problem. There is when there's a learning curve. Yeah,
they got mocked a lot.
Yeah,
I think that was part of people's. What the heck is this? How did it make any sense to me? And they didn't see the vision in it. And then you and I, this was still when you were in your optimistic utopian days. We're thinking, wow, this is great.
You've ground me down, Jeff.
I just thought I took over the optimistic utopian thing. So that's my job now.
I used to be, in fact, Dvorak and I, when we were doing radio shows, he was the grumpy skeptic, and I was this is the greatest thing ever, the cheerleader. And maybe with age, I think it's mostly your fault. Yeah. I've become much more of a cynic. This is a great article. Thank you for the link. It's from the New Yorker. It's a review of a variety of books about consciousness, and you could search for it. It's from December 4th, 2019. Do we have minds of our own? And like all New Yorker articles, I'm going to put this aside and read it when I have time.
This is not one of the longer New York. It's part of the back section, the relatively shorter articles.
Oh, God.
I have currently 32 years worth of New Yorkers I'll read when I get time to do so. We should get Kevin. I've asked you, Kevin, if you want to be on the show. Kevin Marks is in our chat room many times. Hey, Kevin? Yeah, he's been on Twig many times. Kevin. And I think he would probably have a lot to say about this kind of stuff. He's a super smart man. He was watching the Google keynote, and he's been watching some of the other sessions. He used to work. He was a developer at Google, was developer at Apple for QuickTime. Very smart guy. Currently an open web advocate, and it would be great if we could get him on. But he probably would have a lot to say about that during the. I don't know if you saw this, Jeff, during Google I/O yesterday, when Google was talking at the end, actually very hopefully, about being not only zero emissions with offsets, which they are currently, but sometime in the next till 2030, to use energy completely generated by renewables, which would be remarkable. He had an article in 2006 he wrote on his blog about people talking about how much energy a Google search used, and pointing out that when you breathe, you're actually putting more carbon dioxide into the air during the search than the Google computers are. And perhaps if you really wanted to be green, you'd hold your breath every time you did a Google search. So Kevin would be great.
And put something in the rundown later. We can try to practice that.
Okay. Oh, good. A little breathing. All right.
Yes.
So what else could we talk about? Oh, Android 12. And did you put the public beta on either of you yet?
No.
I did immediately because
I don't have 20 phones disposable.
This is not my primary phone, so I could.
Right, exactly. Yeah. How is it?
It's good. I like it. The biggest change you always see in these things is in the notifications panel. That you slide down, and that really does look very, very different. I don't know if you can, how well you'll be.
Did you get the full design? Is it the full design? Is it the?
It's of course the first public beta. They were in developer preview 3, so I don't know how mature it is. It seems reliable. Can you see that? Oh, my camera has been moved because Jason. There it is. I knew I could find it somewhere. All right, there we go. So.
Oh wow, that is different.
Yeah. So let me just slide it down again so you can see it. So. I'm not getting the big wallpaper effects that they were talking about. I tried different wallpapers.
The big clock and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe that's not yet shipping. But this is the notification tray. You see the slide. This is a weird slider for brightness. It's a big fat slider on a little thin line.
Do you really need that?
Looks like Blob Opera, to be honest with you. I don't.
Maybe it's when because when you do that, you do it when it's bright outside and you're in the sun. So having that darker, fatter line. See, that might be why.
Yeah, you are the cheerleader. And then.
Or I just go outside.
Nice,
yeah, maybe you're the only one who goes outside much. These are the new buttons, and you edit them with this big edit button, and you can see there's a lot of choices now, including, and Stacey, you'll like this. A lot of mode buttons. Like this is the bedtime mode from Digital Wellbeing. You can create
Well, you
tasks.
can already put a lot of that. I mean, a lot of that's on my smart home thingy that I just pull down whenever.
Yes, but now it's part of the system notification tray. So that's kind of, I don't know, what do you call that? I can't even remember. I'm sure they talked about this in All About Android. But you can drag these tiles up. So that's, there's more buttons than there used to be. They still do the thing that I don't like. Samsung doesn't do this, which is in order to, when you first, let me go back to when you first pull it down, you don't get a gear for hitting settings. You have to pull it down a second time and then you get the settings gear.
Oh, that is annoying.
Yeah, that's
once you're there, you're like, you want to mess with your settings.
Yeah, Samsung puts it right on the front, but not Google. And the settings, this is that new Material U kind of look. All the buttons are round, all the icons are round.
Okay, does anyone else remember, was it our browsers? Was it Microsoft Word? I think it was Microsoft's Office Suite. You could customize your colors and stuff for that, like in the late 90s. Did y'all spend time doing that? Because I did.
Yeah, and so that was my first reaction to this is nobody wants to theme. It's a lot of work. Some people do. But most people, it's just too much.
You only theme when you're like a kid and you have nothing better to do.
Or you don't have any, you want to quick around with your phone, but you don't have anything else
Basically,
to do.
yes. I mean, I spend that time, messing around with my super hyper intensive smart home automation settings.
Nowadays we have other things to do. But so that's what it's for. But that's why Google said, no, it's automatic. You could. There's a lot more theming capability, but the idea is it's automatic. It picks up colors from your wallpaper and stuff. So that's what we were talking about.
So do you want to hear what I'm excited about?
Yeah.
I want to nerd for a minute?
Of course.
I am excited about Android introducing a new privacy-friendly sandbox for machine learning data.
Yeah. So
Android
is that like a secure enclave kind of, or?
No, it's a software-based sandbox. So everyone's like, oh, it's not that secure. But wait. Here's what I think is happening.
But wait, there's more.
But wait. Let me take you into the future. So ARM introduced something called confidential compute earlier this year as part of its next 10-year cycle of chip design, right? And that is actually going to create a separate, think of it like an OS accessible hardware-based confidential area on a computer. And that's going to be where developers can put their own private stuff and no one, even if you have access to the device, should be able to get it, right? We don't know exactly how it's going to work. And Google's part of this. Google came and talked about the need for this. So Google and ARM are clearly talking. I think this is a beginning of that sort of segmentation. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it, not just for our private machine learning data, but for things like, let's say you have confidential code as a enterprise that you want to run on somebody's phone, like an employee's phone, but you're worried that the employer is going to lose it, right? You could actually lock it into something like that, and it will be no one can access it, basically.
So
I think this
has
is
done
the
this
beginning
with
of that.
Knox. Apple does it with a secure enclave. Those are both hardware based. This sort of is because it's using an ARM technology that will make it more secure than just a software folder.
It's a privileged space in the OS.
Yes.
So it's
not accessible to user applications in the user space, basically, right?
Right, but it's not like with the confidential computing. You're going to still have your quote unquote secure enclave or your trusted execution environment for like Intel chips.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a separate place on the hardware for that.
Got it.
We don't, again, know exactly. But so I think that this is prep for that. And I think it's really good because a couple things. We're starting to realize that all of the data around us being collected, and my thing of the week is tied to this, is really actually kind of personal and upsetting. So I think it's good that companies are actually realizing this and trying to take steps to make it better. And you see Google getting in on this, like even with like their last Nest Hub, the one that does your sleep tracking, all of that's processed locally on the machine, right? So now they're just saying, hey, not only are we processing all this sensitive data locally, well, we're acknowledging it's sensitive, we're going to process it locally, and now we're actually going to try to secure it even better. And I think that's good.
And I think it is a path to the blob. I think that the more that they know how to do locally, the less you worry about things going up. And then the question is, I mean, that's in a way that's what Flock is.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, but that is my concern. That is my concern, Stacey.
Nope. You're drawing a conclusion that is not right. Errant.
Google certainly made a lot of noise about on-device privacy. By the way, they've been saying on-device for just as long as anybody. But it sounded like they were a little bit stung by Apple and attempting to show that Android could be as secure as iOS and as private as iOS. But I think Flock is germane in this sense that Google, because they're 99% of their revenue is from advertising, let's face it, they are going to always go part of the way towards this, but they're always going to leave a little place for advertisers because that's their business. And so they're going to always kind of preserve their role as a first-party aggregator of information, even if they protect you from third parties. And that's what Flock is all about too, right?
Stacey, let me try this on you.
But let Stacey.
You go ahead, Stacey. You go ahead. Then I want to try my Flock theory on you.
Okay. In a world where you're building products based on data and around context for individual users or companies, trust is the most important asset that you have. And I think Google's realized this and is taking steps to try to say, you can trust us.
There's a difference.
I mean,
it's the most important thing to your customer. And for Apple, the customer is the buyer of the phone. For Google, the customer is the advertiser.
I think Google's recognizing, though, that their customer, they have to serve two masters. They may not be able to do it well. And I also think they recognize that eventually search and advertising, they're going to have new business models. They can't do that forever. So they have to, they're kind of like, you remember when this was probably in 2008, 2007, when all the ISPs were like, oh man, we are going to have to make money on data somehow because voice and long distance and all of that and landlines are not going to help us. And they did this very fine balancing act for quite some time before their revenues went over to wireless. Google's in that same position. What did Clayton Christensen do?
Yeah.
Innovator's Dilemma.
But
anyway,
they're going there, but only kicking and screaming, only if they have to. And I think what they're trying to do is to do enough to appease us, who are not the real customers. We are the product. Everything Google does is about gathering information about us to sell to advertisers. That's everything, right? From Android on down. And so their problem is, yes, there is a tension now, and their product, us, is starting to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want you to chop me up.
So are we the free-range chickens in this situation? We used to be.
That's all right. They're trying to do it. Actually, that's an apt analogy because there is a place between keeping a chicken in the dark in a tiny barn if its whole life and having it run around on the prairie. There's this intermediate place where chicken producers who want to say free range are putting chickens that allow them to be
they still get their heads chopped off.
Yeah, they still get the production up. So I think I believe Google's trying to hedge their bet and kind of have it both ways. They understand the consumers are getting pissed off, but they also know they have no business model if they appease consumers. So they're going to do the least. They're going to do just as much appeasement as they have to. And you think
that makes sense?
Yeah, they're going to do more.
I think they might do a little bit more, only because they're right now stuck in kind of a 3 or 4-way race, and you can't be worse than Facebook. It's unclear how much where Amazon's really kind of drinking from the ad Kool-Aid, and people are starting to trust it less. So I think Google's kind of, if I think about the way my feelings about how my data has been used over time have shifted, Google is looking better to me than Amazon. And I used to be like, well, yeah, Amazon's taking all my data, but they're never sharing it. And now I'm like, ooh, Amazon.
Well, Amazon's in the ad business now.
They're in the ad business, but they're more specifically, they're not just advertising. They're actually using my data to make me want to buy things that I don't think I want to buy. So it's not just like advertisers, they're not just selling my data to advertisers who want to advertise to me. Amazon's using my data for itself against me.
So that's, I guess, my fear is that
For
they're
you,
paying lip
Stacey,
service.
for you, for your interest. They know best.
They're paying lip service to privacy because they know they need to now. But I don't.
It's not just lip service. They're actually taking steps that do benefit a user's privacy.
Oh, no, they are. Because they have to.
I mean,
But he's talking about the motive.
I
Leo's talking about the motive more.
I know about motive.
Well,
but
and
like,
let's not forget
be real.
who is Google's customer. Where where does the money come from that Google spends? It all comes from advertisers. We know that. We just look at the quarterly results. So their customer, their business is selling advertising. So we can't forget that. And that's, for people who defend Apple, I don't think Apple, by the way, is clean either. But
oh God, no.
To people who defend Apple, they say, well, all you have to do is look at the business model. It's clear who Apple's customers are. All their revenue comes from selling hardware and services. So I'm just a little skeptical, but I agree with you. I'm very gratified that Google is paying more attention to this. They've always said Ondevice and stuff like that. This is not new.
But the capability to do that has gotten greater. That's the point.
Yeah.
Right. And the greater it gets and the more it gets exploited, the more you have some control over it. Now, then the question is, what's the transparency of what happens on your device versus elsewhere? What faith do you have in that? Lots of other questions.
I also think Google is watching carefully because there's people like us who are beating the drum for privacy. But I think they're also looking at normal people and saying, have they noticed? I know Facebook's doing this. Do they notice? Do we get away with it? They're trying to figure out how much real people care. But it's become more and more apparent when you see a statistic like the fact that 96% of people with Apple's iOS 14.5 checked the box that said do not track. 96%. That sends a chill down Google and Facebook's spine and makes Apple think.
Which Apple?
Well, Apple doesn't yet have a real advertising business. I mean, they're working on it.
Well, they're working on a services business.
Yeah, but the services business they charge for. No. But they charge for it. It's not. Look, I don't pay for almost Google Mail, Google Docs, almost everything I do.
Yeah. No, I got that.
But
I do, and I get worse service.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, our company does. We have a Workspace account, but most people don't. And so there's another. Look, if you're using Gmail for free, yeah, I know Google's not looking for stuff in your mail to advertise to you about anymore. But you got to figure there's a reason Google's giving you all of that for free. I mean, and by the way, YouTube, you think YouTube doesn't know everything about you when you go watch on YouTube? It really frosts me because we have a lot of viewers who say, "Oh, you put ad tracking into the feed." We don't. It's not exactly ad track, but anyway, you're logging me, so I'm going to watch your shows on YouTube. And it's like, dude. You think
YouTube?
Google's
Really?
not tracking you on YouTube? Of course they are. YouTube's free for a reason. Anyway, I don't want to belabor this point. I think it remains to be seen. We're doing the change log. This is going to be like a change. The whole show is going to be the change.
The whole show's
log.
like a change log.
Yeah, I want to take a look.
I/O.
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff. I want to talk more in just a second about that. Actually, there is simultaneously a lot of new stuff and a lot of nothing. But right?
Oh, there's a something. You want to hear my favorite something?
Stay
for the
tuned.
Show?
Stacey's
Yes.
favorite something coming up. Our show today brought to you by Nareva. If you're going back to work, you're going to get back in the conference room, but of course, social distancing still is in effect, and it's got big implications for meeting room audio. For instance, not only are you going to have to keep 6 feet apart, but it may be that you can't place people the same way you could. You're going to need good mic coverage. You're going to want people to be able to hear what you're saying in this meeting space. But the traditional way of doing it is not going to work. You say beamforming systems. What about that? Nope. They often require adjustment from an expensive technician. Plus, you'll have to sit in a specific spot. Tabletop systems require additional mics. They have to be sanitized between meetings. Both systems require participants to change behavior. They can only face one way. They have to sit in, you're going to mark the spot where they have to sit with a piece of tape. Wouldn't it be cool if there were a way to get clearer reliable audio, let your team act naturally, and still feel safe, still socially distanced. That's called Nureva. And it is a scientific miracle. Nureva. They've got 4 patents for what they call their microphone mist technology. It's the first socially distanced mic system. Microphone mist, in effect, puts thousands of virtual microphones in the room. And there's no adjustment or adaptation necessary. The audio automatically adapts to however people are sitting, wherever they're facing, whatever your room configuration. And they have systems for big, little, and giant spaces. Their HDL 300 system is the first microphone and speaker bar to be certified for large meeting spaces up to 15 feet by 28 feet. And by the way, it's Teams certified. It fills a room with thousands of virtual microphones. You get true full room coverage. People can be heard from anywhere, no matter where they're sitting, no matter where they're facing or how they're distanced. That is really nice. And you don't need to bring in a technician. It's just like installing a sound bar. Frankly, the microphone and speaker bar are a single unit. You put it up on the wall and you're done. With Nureva, you get a console that puts device management into your hands and on your terms, adjust settings, install firmware updates. Look how nice that looks. Check device status and more, all from a secure cloud-based platform. And of course, consoles included with every Nureva audio system. By the way, when you enroll your system, I found this out, you'll get an extra year of warranty free. So enroll your system. Nureva audio products have won numerous awards. Top New Technology Award at ISE 2020 for the Nureva HDL 200 system. No matter the size of your room, they have a full line of systems for small, medium, and large spaces. HubSpot uses Nureva. Their principal collaboration engineer, Jimmy Yan, said, quote, "We were so impressed with the sound quality, ease of install, and ease of use of the HDL 300, it was a no-brainer for us to adopt it." To learn more about how Nureva audio is the simple, cost-effective way to let your teams distance in meetings and still act and converse naturally, visit nureva.com/twit. NUREVA.com/twit. Thank you, Nureva, for your support of This Week in Google. And you can support us by going to that special address. It's Nureva, NUREVA.com/twit, TWIT. Thank you, Nureva. Hey, look who's wandered into the place. Kevin Marks is here.
Well.
Yay, open web advocate.
Hey, stranger.
Worked at Google, worked at Apple, is an expert on all of this stuff. So you watched, I saw your tweets. You've actually been watching a lot of Google I.O.
I watched the opening yesterday with you guys, and then I watched that particular episode today. So
the Chroma episode.
Well, there was this sort of weird tease that happened halfway through the morning. Oh, the morning for me, which was we're adding feed reading to Chrome. And I'm like, really?
Adding what?
We're adding feed reading to Chrome. Is like, you're doing what?
RSS feed reading?
RSS in Chrome, yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
What?
Yes.
So I was like,
do tell.
Okay. Wait a minute. I am interested in that.
Google, everything old is new again at Google. They killed Google Reader, they killed Google Wave, and now they're bringing them both back.
Plus is next.
I think what's happened is that everyone who's old enough to remember has left, and they've got some new product managers who come in and they're like,
you know, it would be really cool
nice
is if web pages had some sort of, I don't know, it could be XML or JSON format where you could know what was on the page and it would get updated whenever there was a new post. How could we do that? Jeez Louise.
You know what I'd love to see is blog rolls.
Yeah, they're coming back too. So they're going to put there, you don't need a special app, you just use Chrome.
Yeah, let me find the blog post.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, please do throw that in the chat.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Used to be you could actually go to RSS:// I think, or maybe not. You just go to the XML. Let me go to twit.tv.
No, I think that was Safari that would render. I'm not sure Chrome did. Safari and Firefox both rendered it. I'm not sure Chrome did.
Yeah. What is our, is it feeds.xml? What is our, I can't remember what our RSS is. Yeah, well, that didn't work.
Okay, I found it. Hang on, I'm just getting the rundown.
That's there it is. Jason has posted it in our IRC. RSS-powered. No, not this. That's the did not find feed. RSS. Let me see here.
So what But they didn't. Well, they did say RSS, but they were very much saying it's about. We wanted people to be able to follow people inside Chrome.
Oh, it's a follow button. Chrome
so
testing RSS-powered follow button and feed that keeps the Google Reader dream alive, writes Abner Lee in 9 to 5 Google.
Yeah. So I stuck the actual blog post in from the Chrome team.
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
From Janice and the Chrome team.
So I guess this is kind of like Follow in a podcast app.
It's like following the podcast sense or follow the feed. Yeah. So they've picked up the follow verb from Twitter, and I suppose Facebook has it now too. So it's a general verb, which is better than subscribe. Really, it's kind of clearer.
Yeah.
And what happens is you click on this and it adds feeds to the blank tab you get when you open Chrome. So when you open Chrome and you get a blank tab, cool. There's a little thing next to it that says, you can see it in the screenshot in the blog post.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So there's a little follow. You can't quite see it; it's a bit fuzzy, but there's the little following thing there. Yeah,
bottom left. Yep.
No, second
so
one. Yeah, follow
that. This is the new tab page here, and it has a For You, and it also has following, and these are blogs you followed, and this is the most recent post in the blog you followed, just as it would be in a podcast client.
So it's reverse chronological ordered across the posts. They didn't say they were hand waving about filtering, but they didn't say they were going to filter anything. And you click through and you just read the original post in the browser.
So it's like Twitter for posts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like the things that they put on the if you swipe left at the front of Android and you get a bunch of stories there, it's basically that layout.
Oh, I love
model.
that. Yeah,
it's like Google
only?
News.
It's mobile only for now. Yeah, it's going to be on Chrome Canary in 2 weeks. They said so. Sign up for Chrome Canary, and then there'll be an experiment. You can do it.
I'll be curious to see what it does with podcast feeds. I wonder if it will put a little play button in there. That would be great.
They said it wasn't going to do podcasts, and it's not using the same engine as the podcast engine. So this is classic Google talking to itself again. Because Google podcast shows up in Google search, and there's subscriptions in there, and they've had that
in a couple of years. Google will announce at Google I/O, and now you can follow binary files like podcasts, like audio shows, and they will have reinvented the podcast. It's going to be a very exciting time. Okay.
With AI. You forgot the AI.
Oh, yeah. I forgot AI and blockchain.
That'll be in there.
That in there, too. Yeah. So we have yet to find anything we're too excited about. Stacy was excited about Tizen and Where merging.
Oh, wait, no. We promised people I would tell them the other thing.
Oh, yeah. What else?
Actual future.
Okay.
Project Starline.
Okay.
You were excited about
real.
this. Oh.
You are so wrong on this, but go ahead.
I thought it was neat because I think I get that there's lots of
it was neat.
No.
I won't deny it.
I saw the infrastructure. There's a lot happening in the background to make no background to standardize this. But I still thought this was like, it's like a vision of the future where you're like, this could be the future. That's kind of fun. So show people it's a 3D rendering or it's a 3D version
here's
of
the picture.
Video calls.
So it's using something that's well-known called light field technology, which gives you, it's the only way to do 3D without special glasses or headsets. And I've actually seen it in action at CES last year. They had a number of people. Sony was doing it. A number of people were doing light field displays.
I hadn't seen that size before. That is
There's
really big.
never been this big. It was much more like a little box you'd put your face in.
Yeah, that's what I've seen like before. Yeah. So that's interesting.
But there's reasons for that. For one thing, it's not very bright. So this is misleading. It would have to be a darkened room if it's going to work. And because, this is a prototype, we don't know how much it's going to cost. But I think that size, I bet it's not cheap.
Oh, it reminded me of, remember when Cisco was launching all their fancy telepresence stuff and you had to go to like a hotel to use it? It reminded me of that. But,
it's light field projection.
These things come down in price. It also, the way people were, it was like talking to someone like who's in jail, like through the clear plexiglass, where you're on one side with the phone. It did, but it was still neat. And I get excited about commercialization of technology that could do something like this, especially as,
So the only reason I'm skeptical is we've seen a lot of attempts to do these kinds of things, and they're always disappointing in the long run. It's probably very expensive, and it's only marginally better than a screen. The fact that you could kind of turn your head and see a little of a 3D effect does not make it somehow magical.
It is not the 10X thing, but I will say we had thought about video call. I mean, AT&T had a video phone back in 1960. And
that really took off too, by the way.
It took a long time, but we're there now. Think about things like FaceTime.
I saw that too at the World's Fair in 1965 in the New York World's Fair. And here it is. Let me do some quick math. 55 years later. And now we're
argue a little sooner.
Well, this is the perfect Stacy optimist versus grumpy Leo.
I've turned into a grump.
Cynic. Yeah, this is right here. We have it.
65-inch light field display is Google expensive, I think, but maybe not.
I think you're right. And
remember, you have to have one at both ends.
Anything that normalizes new technology, I get excited about.
Right. You do need one at both ends. So.
And a piece of wood.
Yes. Yeah. Kevin and I were talking about it. He's like, I just got a fax machine. And I'm like, haha.
Oh, it's being transmitted over WebRTC. I don't know how you feel about WebRTC, Kevin Marks, but
it's not too bad. I mean,
it's okay. It's not too bad. There you have it.
It's standardized. I mean, the thing, 20 years ago when we were doing it for the first time, this stuff was hard. It's now everyone's doing it. And I was trying to sign in today. It was like, I haven't got that video chat app. We've got 6 different ones now.
Yeah.
Because we've pretty much standardized it and we know how to do it. So I'm comfortable with being able to do that. It's just that there's going to be chucking a bit more data over it. So they're going to have data issues. But I suspect what they're primarily doing is using this for, into Google conferencing.
Lauren Good did
They're actually not using it.
They're not.
They're just playing with it. Right?
They're just showing. Well, Lauren Good got to try it. She's writing in Wired about it, and she said it was pretty amazing. So, she actually, I met with 3 separate Googlers in Project Starline, all of them men, and some of the surreality faded each time I shifted in my seat, moved to the side just a few inches, the illusion of volume disappears. Suddenly you're looking at a 2D version of your video chat partner again, similar to the way a sporting event looks great on your big screen TV until you move too far off the sweet spot. There were also, and I think this is WebRTC, a few random artifacts fluttering on screen, broken bits that served as occasional reminders the person in front of me was not really there. And when one of the demonstrators started casting a web page onto the light field display as an example of how 2 people collaborate in Starline, we both just stared over each other's right shoulder at a not quite interactive page. There seems to be work to be done. She asked, will it take 5 more years? The Google men did not seem inclined to answer. Google says around 100 employees have used Starline. It has been tucked away in secret offices in Mountain View, Seattle, and New York.
I could go play with it.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get you an invite. I'm not against it. I just think that, remember, this is prototype. This is not a Google announcement of a product at any point.
Well, look, I don't feel like I'm going to die within the next 20 years, so I'm excited.
Maybe that's my problem.
2 decades.
Maybe that's
I'll
my
be okay and
that's
see
the
this.
problem. Yeah, we're just pissed we're not going to get it.
I'll be dead by the time that comes out, so screw it. Did you see anything that we have overlooked that was really exciting, Kevin?
Let me think. I mean, a lot of it was. It was like retelling the things that we already knew about.
Yeah,
so
that was my thought.
And it was a little bit, because it didn't seem that themed. It seemed a bit Conway's Law-ish. It was like, here's the guy in charge of this department. Here's his demo.
It totally felt like that. I even said that, didn't I, Jeff? I said they sent out a memo to all the departments, who wants to present at Google I/O, and then they had a lottery, or maybe they had a battle royale, and the survivors got to present.
Because the Apple keynotes were very much that. The Apple keynotes were like, okay, bring with your best demos, and if they're good enough, Steve will do them.
But but they were and the difference is Apple was announcing products. Google is not announcing products; they're just talking.
It was
about
announcing thoughts.
Thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, but Apple wasn't, at WWDC, the developer day, I mean, they announced hardware there now, but the developer thing was here's what we built this year for you to go with apps on.
So what you're saying is this is like an Apple keynote from 20 years ago.
Except that it's not as coherently themed, They did bring in lots and lots of people. Yeah, I mean, there was a theme. The theme was AI makes things better, and we're working on AI and we're trying to be private about it, and we're not going to mention the elephant in the room about the people who've quit Google.
They made no mention of the AI ethics issues. Timnit Gebru.
Well, no, they mentioned it, but they didn't mention the people who worked on it. Yeah. They mentioned about improving things for improving.
Is part of that, do you think,
cameras for black people
because AI advances are implemented in software? So one, you don't get a lot of shiny new devices, but two, AI advances are usually fairly incremental, right? So
yes,
I'm just wondering if we're going to enter into this era of meh features.
Casey Newton called this the biggest changes to docs in a decade.
Yeah, he was quite excited.
And he also said it may not be enough. But Docs has not been a sexy, glitzy product for Google ever, probably.
Do we want it to be a sexy?
No, it was good enough.
We want to be.
It got the job
utilitarian.
done. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the point. I mean, the thing about Wave was, we're going to do it a whole new way. And Docs was, okay, we quite like the editing together in parallel thing. We'll take that, but we'll keep the document model we've already got. And a big chunk, Docs used to be a bit more radical in that it was very web-like. And it got more document-like over time as they showed it to more Microsoft users. Microsoft users said, I haven't got this little thing I wanted. And of course, Microsoft Office now has caught up with Docs pretty much. It's not quite as clean, but you can edit in Word and it'll appear on the web to other people and the cursors will appear and stuff will work. And it puts little warnings up saying, don't try and edit the same thing, bad things will happen. But it's they're sort of there. So I think Google said, okay, well, what can we do that rebuilds this in a different way? What can we bring in that we've already got? And I think part of it is what you said. It's also them. It's solving the problem that they have, which is we're trying to collaborate with 8 people across 6 time zones to try and agree that the product release, which is like, okay, that's a problem that you have. That's not a problem that many of us have. I mean, okay, I guess we're across 4 time zones here and we're having a conversation about stuff in a spreadsheet. So I guess we're doing it too. But the particulars of the...
By the way, it's a Google Docs spreadsheet. I just want to make sure you...
Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to get that moved over to Notion or some other more modern thing. That's one of the problems Casey raises is, Google here has to deal with the picayune, he uses that word, the picayune needs of Microsoft Office users. And so it unfortunately keeps them...
It holds it back.
Tamped down. Whereas there are a lot of startups like Roam and Notion, and I can go on and on, that are doing really interesting things with Docs.
Well, I get such tool fatigue. I've got one colleague who is brilliant, absolutely brilliant at knowing every tool, but then he presents 50 tools to the faculty and our heads explode. And we just say, give us Docs again.
That's what happens, I think. I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, Airtable valued at $5.77 billion. Notion raised $50 million. Coda raised money at a value of $600 million. These are all companies that are innovating because they don't have the innovator's dilemma. They don't have to preserve any incumbency at all. They can start with a clean slate.
But it's also, it's Google was preserving Microsoft's incumbency to some extent. Docs ended up with a floppy disk button originally because people were scared that it wasn't there.
So sad.
But that was it. They built this thing that's like, we're going to edit stuff on the web, and they gradually converged on Office because everyone was used to Office.
Right.
And I've been editing a long document in Word this week, and I've forgotten how annoying it was. And it's still like I'm switching between outline mode and print view mode and web view mode, and the images disappear in outline mode. And
Kevin, have you tried any of the more modern tools? I've been using Roam and Notion.
I've tried Roam.
Obsidian.
I've used Miro.
What is it?
Miro. That's I think someone in chat mentioned that as well. That's a sort of collaborative canvas thing. So if you were doing like post-its on the whiteboard type collaboration, it's designed for doing that.
So it's much more kind of graphical whiteboardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were talking about, it's like multiplayer Prezi. you're basically arranging visual things in a space.
Here, you can show it, John. I have it on the screen here.
Yeah. So you all get to be in the box and move things around and collaborate on a.
This actually looks like what Google demonstrated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it may be a bit like that. It's just like they may have learned something from this, but it's very canvassy. So what I've done I've used it in, the sort of places where you'd have the big meeting with the company, and you put Post-its on a whiteboard and come up with strategy.
This would be less desirable for a text presentation. Yes. You wouldn't want to write in this.
No, you wouldn't. No, this is more like I've got a bunch of ideas. We're trying to arrange them into a thing. Then you go away and write it up. So that kind of spatial brainstorming thing that you were talking about with Prezi as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? Some of these things replicate the things I hate. I have come to hate Post-it note meetings. I see Post-it notes and I run.
Yeah.
Oh no, brainstorming time.
Design thinking.
Breakout time.
How do you plot out your books, Jeff?
Oh, Stacy.
How do you? Actually, that's a good question. Do you use an outliner, Jeff, at least?
Nope.
You just
I
start
use
writing.
You know what I use?
What?
A pile of whiteboards. Yeah. Oh, where you can't see them.
I use whiteboards, but the function of the whiteboard is kind of like
to hold the Post-it notes.
Yeah. Well, because this is an idea I care about. This is an example of that idea. Let's start throwing things up there. Yeah. And then you.
But that's the point. Is you arrange them spatially. So you write things on index cards or Post-its and spread them around, and then say, oh, these ones belong together. And doing that kind of thing is actually quite hard in a word processing type interface.
I think outliners do a very good job. Dave Weiner, the creative. Dave Weiner, the creative RSS, is the kind of prototypical outliner guy. He invented all of the best outliners, including more going way back to when on the Macintosh.
I mean, they're okay, but they're very hierarchical. That's the thing. You can putting things inside other things and collapsing.
You can drag things around, though.
But you can't put them off to one side and leave them there for a bit and then bring them back later. So the thing about, arranging index cards on the thing and saying, okay, these ones definitely belong together. I'm not sure which order this story goes in. Oh, that one goes there. Sort of the storyboarding thing, or the that kind of arranging the ideas part is easier with the spatial thing. And
so this is why I like Notion.
Which is why I like Prezi as well. Prezi was good for that too.
Notion is another, but this is what happens. You get tool fatigue. Notion is another way to do that kind of thing with cards, and it's pretty and you can drag stuff around, but you can also, dig into it, and so you can get text. You can also,
but can you put 3 cards on the screen and put them side by side?
Yeah, totally. So here's an example.
I use whiteboard, eraser, and arrows. Oh no, that should be up there.
Yeah, I can't do that freeform annotation.
But you're not doing that. What was the other one I was playing with the other day?
Here's
so many
interesting.
Tools,
These are trips we've taken in a text list, or table.
You're right,
but then you can also do cards. Yeah, everybody has a different way of doing this, I guess. This is Notion. It's not the perfect tool, but I think there's really interesting stuff being done, frankly, in these tools.
Oh yeah,
Rome Research is really interesting too. I don't know if you've played with that at all, but these are all
Rome, like as in moving, or Rome as in the city.
ROAM. Okay. And it's a note-taking tool. It has a, you know what it really is, and Kevin will recognize this immediately. It's a wiki, but it's a wiki with backlinks. And I mean, if I say that, it minimizes it. It's really a note-taking tool, but because it supports backlinks, it ends up being kind of a wiki in effect. It's very powerful, and there are people doing some amazing things with it as well. So that's what I'm saying and that's what Casey Newton was saying, is it's going to be tough for Google as an incumbent, especially an incumbent that has to appease Microsoft Word users.
But is that where this new model works, though? You can embed the Microsoft Word document in your Google document. Fine, it's there. You can see it, you can change it, you can get to it, but you can have all this fancy stuff around it.
Yeah, I think I like the model. I thought Wave was great too, though.
Yeah, I did too. I thought Wave was changing the way we work.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you just got to wait till that comes around to that.
It could have been ahead of its time.
Succeed.
Yeah,
I think it was.
So I stuck another link in the chat.
This is how we would work if we were in a collaborative environment. You would just put that on the show, and it would appear in the screen. I really am intrigued by the idea of doing the kinds of shows we do in a much more kind of, with text and images.
So there's another screen here that we can cut to.
Kind of an integrative environment.
Which is what we do in class, right?
Yeah.
Or your dude that you had on, he did Evernote. What's his name? Phil
Libin. Yeah. In fact, Maggie in her article mentions, this is her article at maggieappleton.com, the linear oppression of note-taking apps. She mentions Evernote, but also Notion, also Roam, also OneNote, Bear, and Obsidian, all of which I used and have used.
I was thinking about his next thing with the video cameras where you can throw up the virtual camera, so you can throw up things like...
Yeah.
Like you do on a TV news show, but you could actually integrate that into the actual performance. You like
the coda of Maggie's blog post, Jeff. Surely Gutenberg has something to answer for.
Yeah.
Who's to blame for our linear textual predicament?
McLuhan. The line, this sentence is an example of it, becomes our organizing principle.
Yeah.
Quoth Gutenberg.
So that goes back to our original conversation, Stacey, of is nature or nurture? Is it learned, or is it representing how our brain actually works?
Or let's get us our favorite GIF. Why not both?
I do feel like the thing that is most interesting, and I'm sure, Kevin, you feel the same way, about the technological world we're living in, is that it does kind of take the cards and throw them up in the air and say, well, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be a linotype or a line of lead. I know, Jeff. It can be something else. But ironically, we're still doing typewriters. They're just digital.
Well, that's exactly the point. Yes. And what are we doing on our phones? Right? We're trying to replicate the keyboard sense.
So maybe it's time to think outside the box a little bit, except the human brain is so boxed that
that's why think Stacey's outside the QWERTY.
Outside the QWERTY.
Yeah, that's why Stacey's daughter is the key person here. And that's why I said when we watched yesterday, what struck me was that Google is the language company. More than any other company, it knows how to try to understand
what we're saying. Words. It's
what
about
we
words.
Want to translate that into other languages, into actions, into conversations. It is really a language company.
Words are the atom of Google's matter.
Yeah. The thing is, they do images too. They've done a lot of work with processing images, partly to attach words to them. And they can be a little bit literal. I was searching for a picture, and I was searching for my son. So I was searching for Andrew and Christopher at the beach and didn't find the picture. And I said, Andrew and Christopher at the sea. And then it found the picture, because the one I wanted, there wasn't any sand in it, so it didn't count as a beach. So it's
how interesting. Funny. That's really interesting.
Google has clearly never been to the Pacific Northwest.
Look at this too.
All our beaches are rocky.
Yeah, there's no sand on those beaches. This is something Kevin put in the chat. This is kinopio.club. KINOPIO. This is really interesting, Kevin. I've never seen this before.
So this is the kind of idea. You can create cards. You can move the cards around. You join.
Look, they even have audio.
You're pulling those cards in from other sites and services.
I think you can create them. I'm not sure you can insert pictures and things, but I'm not sure you can import them from something else. I suppose you could. I'm not sure. I have to play with it. It was one of the things that I looked at. I thought that could be fun to play with, but it depends. Part of the reason that we haven't had these recently is that you need a big screen to do this stuff on. So when you're out on your phone,
that's
it wasn't
right.
possible.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're sitting at home on big screens again. Suddenly, these kinds of tools
and a mouse. And a mouse. Yeah. You wouldn't. Maybe you could do this with touch.
Yeah, no, you could do it with touch, but it would be fiddly. You could do this on an iPad, with a pen or with a
do
finger.
You think for Stacey's kids and others in that younger generation, touch is important, and iPads maybe are the future, or is that not? Is that too linear still?
I think they can do. I mean, my daughter will definitely come in and try to touch my monitor.
Does she use an iPad?
She uses an iPad. She uses a MacBook. She can do anything.
She doesn't care, probably.
She's not, yeah.
She cares less than we do.
She uses whatever tool gets whatever like if she's writing a paper, she's going to write it on a keyboard. Right. But if she's doing a presentation, she will often do it on a tablet type.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is part of this is we're still trying to articulate these kinds of flow things as well. It's one of the problems we have with programming now, because programming is we're trapped in writing linear code,
right?
But actually what we're building is lots of things that interact and plug into each other and wire things up. But the code, you still end up having to express that in code. If you remember, Yahoo Pipes was like the thing where you say,
I knew you were going to say pipes, Kevin.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I was so excited. I was like,
we should point out
bring
the
RSS
late
feeds back,
lamented Yahoo Pipes. It's gone. Yahoo killed it.
But that is, a lot of the way you write code these days is you are saying, pull this thing from here, wait for this thing here, and then if it works, do this thing. If it works, so you're doing flowcharty things, but you're still writing them in prose. So the programming tools, there are programming tools that do behave like that. But there's
what about HyperCard? I mean, Bill Atkinson thought about this 1984.
Well, I think Kevin just gave us the bridge, though, which is a language piece. What was that whole conversational thing yesterday with whatchamacallit?
Well, think about all the no-code, low-code things.
Mama.
I mean,
right. It was language becomes code.
Yeah, but the problem is that
what's
language
important
is
you've got to make it accessible to more people, right?
Yeah,
what we're doing is we're basically bridging all the, I mean, if you think about APIs and services, which every company should be building, right? So if you think about that, your whole mission in life is to pull together these services easily for people. And we have to be able to do that because we're relying more on computers. We're relying more on data from so many different places to just do our jobs. So yeah, this is where we're heading.
Right. So Google hears your words, understands your intent, takes an action on your behalf. That's programming. Right. Yeah. And the question is, do we have to speak its language or can it start to speak our language in that?
It will start to speak our language.
When this happens, do that. That's programming.
Yes. Although I have to point out these days, I mean, if you're using Prezi, you're programming. Admittedly, somebody has written all the code underlying, but by any time you're putting things together in a space, you're writing code. This is in effect, right?
Well, think about it. Think about it this way.
I mean, Kevin's the only programmer here, so I shouldn't.
Think about MacGyver. Okay, when you're putting duct tape, or when you make something work, like I take, I'm like, oh, this doesn't work, so I wrap a rubber band around it, or I fiddle with it, and I'm technically engineering, right? And I'm not engineering at the high level actual engineers do, but I'm solving a problem with physical tools.
Right.
And with programming, it has been historically a very complicated, esoteric thing. But what we're doing is we're again putting in layers of abstraction. So we're now using our digital world just like I would use tape to fix something in engineering.
Exactly.
And for yourself, not for scale, not for everybody. Yeah. You're not trying to make something that is productized. Yeah. You're trying to accomplish something for yourself.
Yeah, so it's a business. I mean, maybe it's a business task. I need to pull in data from 5 different places to figure out if whatever I'm doing in my job works out. But yes, exactly that. And we're just learning how to manipulate digital files and digital services in ways that are accessible to everyone, not just programmers. Also, the programmers are going to hate it if we call it programming.
Well, I think they know, though, by now. There's low-level programming, there's high-level programming, and then there's assembling that is anything that's creating something new out of...
life hacks.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is coding. It's just at different levels.
But most of coding these days is connecting different things together.
Yeah, it's pasting pieces
and also,
together,
spreadsheets are that. What you just described is very much a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets already have lots of little boxes that connect together.
Yeah.
Except you can't see them because the formulas are kind of hidden. And Microsoft has just shipped lambdas in Excel now, so you can, which is like Lotus Improv from 30 years ago. But it's the same kind of idea of the formulas can exist outside of the boxes, which means they can be a bit more broadly applicable. So there's something there, but sort of a spreadsheet where you could see the little wires like in that kinopio thing. That would be interesting. Which of these cells are connected to the other cells? Could you explode it out into the sort of guy in the room with the red string diagram?
I think a lot of work is being done around this stuff right now. I think what Google's going to do with Canvas in Workspaces is probably going to be the least innovative of it because they're tied down by all sorts of constraints. But I think there is some really interesting stuff going on. Nothing quite does it yet. But it's
also a data visualization thing. I was trying to show you this book, but of course, if I try and pick a book up, it's going to disappear because it will assume it's not.
Just make sure it doesn't go to your green screen. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Too late. Seeing with fresh eyes.
So Edward Tufte's latest book. So he's been sort of banging this drum for 30 years as well, saying what matters is arranging things with enough density of data and information to explain things to you. And that was a thing that, he was originally talking about print a lot, and then he started talking about displays. But now we actually have screens that are dense enough and have enough pixels that you can that they're better than printing these days. So you could potentially do the kinds of really dense visualizations that he shows in these books as part of this. But we're sort of stuck in a model where we're assuming people are on their phone or on their screens. So the things we build tend to have to work on both of those. So they end up being sort of small as well. And that was the weird thing about the feed reader that they were showing. So we're building a feed reader on the phone first. It's like, well, okay, but I'm only able to see one thing at a time on that. It's not going to be as useful as a feed reader where I have a long list of things I can pick the one I want to look at.
Right.
Have you ever been to an Edward Tufte seminar, Stacey or Kevin?
No, I wanted to go to one, and I think I got sick or something. I had signed up.
Really would like to go. Have you gone, Kevin, ever to see him?
No, I haven't. I've bought all the books, and
Yeah. This is
and you read them?
latest.
They don't just sit on your shelf?
Eyes.
No, I do read them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Kevin would. The kind of guy I would read it. Yeah.
Well, this is the newest one. This is actually really good because it's sort of summing up.
He's the king of data visualizations. He's been teaching this for 30 years.
It's sort of some super dense stuff. It's got some great COVID graphs in it and things. It's very up to date. But it's also he's got lots of things about explaining. This thing I said in book 1, I was wrong. You should be doing it like this as well. So he basically says the key thing is to plot every point of data that you have, and then in a way that people can look at it and get a gestalt of it, rather than simplifying things down to averages or just plotting the lines or those kinds of things. So it sort of pushes back against the whole ideas of statistics, which grew up because we couldn't possibly plot all the points. So we have to come up with some summarizing numbers or whatever. So he has this there's a great bit where he starts dissecting a classic PowerPoint slide and says, okay, so here's the thing showing the growth over the last 2 years, but there's only 3 numbers here. What if we look at all the numbers that are really there and go through like that? And that stuff is like, yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. And if that sense of data visualization can flow into the tools that we're using to collaborate as well, I think that will be powerful. So my sense is that's the piece that's kind of missing. And it's something that Google should be good at. Google is, if anyone's good at moving large amounts of data around, it's Google. But I haven't seen those kind of tufty dense visualizations coming out of Google recently.
I'm now going to buy this book, by the way.
You do buy the book,
and then I won't read it. I'll just
Kevin,
put it on
you
my
won
shelf.
for the day.
Yeah, he just did his pick. That's great. That's great.
The signed one.
Yeah.
Oops,
did you get the signed one? Oh, look at that. That's spiffy. Spiffy, man. You can actually get all 5 of his books autographed if you want on his website. Let's take a little break. I wanted to show you something.
Okay.
Uh-oh. A new tattoo?
No, but how do you like this shirt? This is a linen shirt.
It is nice.
It's a beautiful shirt. This is my new Untuck It. I am in love with Untuck It, our new sponsor. In fact, I was talking with them, and of course I got some polo shirts, and Untuck It are shirts designed not to tuck in. And it's always been a problem because either shirts have these long shirt tails, and if you walk around, you look like a slob, or they're too short, and they have the square bottoms. Untuck It has always designed shirts that are just exactly the right length, halfway down the zipper, actually, technically. If you're looking for a Father's Day gift, speaking as a father, this is the gift to give Dad, a shirt from Untuck It. They have shirts for every occasion. I'm going to Hawaii in July, and I thought I should get some nice linen shirts. I love linen, but linen is wrinkly as heck. That's, I guess, one of its properties, except they have wrinkle-free linen. I don't know how they do it. It's kind of magic. They make these shirts, as you can see, all of them designed to be worn untucked, casual. It's a tough style to get right, but they've figured it out. And by the way, they have a huge variety of fits, all shapes, all sizes. We've fit everybody from Jason Howell to me to Aunt Pruitt. It helps you look sharp even at your most casual. They have performance shirts. I have a bunch of these that wick sweat, polo style shirts, short sleeve button downs. They have slim, relaxed, and tall fits, sizes all the way up to triple XL. We call it programmer size. There's something just right for you. And I have been getting, I started off with the kind of the casual Untuckit shirts, the polos and stuff. And now I'm starting to get some of these dress shirts because they're so beautiful. And look, I've worn this several times. It was actually in my closet all balled up when and it's not wrinkled. I love it. What else can I tell you about Untuckit? This is great. They test every batch of fabric to ensure the best possible quality and consistency. So all of their button downs, their polos, their tees, their Henleys have just the right length. They fit perfectly. Best of all, they have outstanding customer service. So if there's anything wrong, anything you don't like, they've got you covered. And if you're thinking about going back to the office, or Dad perhaps is thinking about going back to the office, check out the wrinkle-free collection. I've worn them several times and always get compliments. You just look sharp. Short and long sleeves. Untuckit does have stores, 85 stores nationwide. So if you want, you can go and try them on. Honestly, I've been very happy just ordering them by mail. There are, of course, free returns and exchanges. So there's no risk at all. I think you're going to love it. I think Dad's going to love it. If you've been looking for something for Dad for Father's Day, and I'm one of those dads, my son's always saying, "Now, Dad, we gotta sharpen you up. You can't be wearing those cargo pants to come visit me anymore." I wore an Untuckit the other day. He said, "Where'd you get that? That looks sharp." So maybe for sons too, and grads. Don't forget Untuckit for the dad, the grad, the son in your life. Use code, or the daughter. TWIT is the code, TWIT, 20% off your first purchase. You don't have to tell Dad that. Untuckit is UNTUCKIT, untuckit.com. So go to untuckit.com. Again, the offer code is TWIT for 20% off your first purchase. Untuckit, shirts designed to be worn untucked. When I found out they had linen, I thought, oh, man, I'm getting a bunch of these for Hawaii because they look nice. They look dressy. The colors on these are incredible. But they're also very cool, very relaxed. Cool with a capital C and a lowercase as well. Untuckit.com. Offer code is TWIT. Thank you, Untuckit, for your support of This Week in Google. Anything else about Google I/O that we should talk about? We have a Google changelog, but I think we've probably gone through all of the changelog already.
So the sweatshirt that they sent out to the press.
Oh, that's a fascinating story.
I didn't notice this. I wouldn't have noticed this at all because it's
Russell Holly. Russell Holly
on
figured
gray.
this out. Yeah.
I don't know if you can even see it.
There's a number on it.
Yeah. It's literally gray on gray. You could barely notice it.
Russell Holly has a picture at CNET where you can kind of see it. The number is what, 8,800? What does it say on yours?
Same thing.
What does that mean?
But it's far. Read down. You'll see what it is. He coded it.
The characters run down the full length of the left sleeve. They contain the following information. Oh, so 8,800 is just part of it. Parenthesis
Right.
162137 8800 ampersand G close parenthesis question mark I/O colon left bracket right bracket semicolon. So the semicolon indicates maybe it's a little bit of a line of code, maybe some Python. I don't know. What do you think? Let's ask Kevin Marks.
Python doesn't have semicolons, so it wouldn't be Python.
Oh yeah, like Python doesn't use those. They use tabs. Ugh. Okay, let's enter it into the Google search and see what we come up with. Oh, I find a bunch of articles explaining it.
There you go.
I'll let Russell Holly explain it. It's actually the Unix timestamp for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, 4 p.m. Pacific. Did something happen at 4 p.m.?
I don't know.
That's so silly.
This is when they'd announced the new Chromebook or something, but no.
Yeah, the Pixel 6 is coming out. No, nothing. Oh, well. So that's kind of weird. And you didn't notice it, even though you have the sweatshirt.
Well, mainly, both Jason and I were noticing how it won't fit either of us.
Oh, it's really small.
Tiny. This is a large. And it's
maybe at 4 p.m. it'll expand.
Yeah. They need to do some lessons with Untuckit. We need a Google Untuckit would be a good thing.
It is the Unix epic time.
Well, except they don't provide shirts for women, so that would be terrible. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
I want to hear
like
Kevin
free
on
t-shirts
Lambda.
too.
Yeah, Lambda was
Lambda and Mum.
So Lambda is the next step after BERT. But these are all, and it's kind of like GPT. These are all models for speech technology, I guess.
But weren't they built using the same technology that built BERT?
They mentioned BERT.
Yeah, it was kind of
Lambda was built using transformer.
It's based on
learning,
transformer.
Correct?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
it's the next iteration of the same. Throw a large number of large corpus at a large machine learning thing and persuade it to come up with a simulacra of speech.
The demonstration they did, which was the planet having a conversation with the planet Pluto and then with a paper airplane, implied that it's more than just a text-to-speech simulator. It's almost like ELIZA. It's a conversational AI.
Well, you can do that with GPT-3, but you can say, I'm having a conversation with Sherlock Holmes, me type of thing, Sherlock Holmes, and it responds to Sherlock Holmes or whatever. You can it contextually, it's got enough backup that it will generate something that's vaguely plausibly that kind of thing. But it's doing the same thing. It ends up being like really bad improv. It's like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this thing pretending to be Pluto. And it
was pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know if that was a canned demo or, but it was fairly impressive in its understanding of context and stuff.
Yeah, but it's sort of it's plausible bullshit is the thing.
Well, that's my stock in trade, if you Kevin
say,
Marks. I don't know why you would.
But that's exactly the thing. So it's like if you can get it to sort of freestyle a bit about pretending to be Pluto, that's something. If you actually ask it a question about something you care about, it'll start making up random details or plausible sounding random details that are wrong.
So it's not a Google Assistant replacement or anything. Unfortunately, they don't have any way you can play with it. You have to just take their word.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But this is literally what the Stochastic Parrots paper was about, which is the one that they got grumpy about and refused to publish because it was saying these things don't have enough context, but we will fill in the context from what it's saying.
Wow.
That's interesting, Kevin. Right.
Did you read the paper? I don't know if you
on the dangers of stochastic parrots. Can language models be too big? This is Timrit Gebru along with Emily Bender, Angelina McMillan-Major, and Margaret Schmitchell, who is actually Margaret Mitchell. I'm not sure why she says Margaret Schmitchell. So their complaint is what? That the training sets are biased, or which we've heard before.
Well, there's lots of things. Basically, the size rate is so big you don't know what it's doing. It's trained on content from the internet that hasn't been vetted and contains a lot of bias and historical stereotypes.
Issue, right.
They say size does not guarantee diversity, for instance.
Right. But if you go down to like section 6, 6.1 around there, it's
coherence in the eye of the beholder.
So basically, what they're saying here, I'm trying to find the sentence I dragged out of it yesterday, but
this is such a shame that both Gebru and Mitchell were fired over this paper. Is frankly stunning and unacceptable.
It is. I mean, so risks and harms 6.2. This is it. The ersatz fluency and coherence of language models raises several risks, precisely because humans are prepared to interpret strings belonging to languages they speak as meaningful and corresponding to the communicative intent of some individual or group of individuals who have accountability for what is said. So basically, we fill in the gaps in its nonsense.
We project, and we always
project.
That's what humans do, and that's why your child thinks that Echo is real as a person, or that the Google they're talking to somebody with a Google Assistant, and more than projecting personality on it, we project authority on it, and that's the risk.
Yes,
especially because it's coming from Google. Well, Google knows everything.
Right. And, to some extent, Google does know everything, but what it doesn't, it can't actually make sense of things a lot of the time. And it makes and it's making more. I'm not sure it's making more errors than it used to, but it's making different kinds of errors than it used to. So I was, if I search for my name in the UK, if I search my name in America, there's now a professional footballer called Kevin Marks, so all the results are all him now. If I search for my name in the UK,
I hate it when that happens.
It was probably annoying for him when he was searching before and just getting my blog.
My father hates it when he searches for his name and he gets me all the time now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is contextual now. It used to, this was when we were working on the Google profiles. One of the cases was people should be able to find other Kevin Markses than me, or you shouldn't get a blog post for everything. But blogs were what was made up the internet at that point.
Right.
So
that's all there was. Yeah, and if you were a blogger, you were
it was the most linked
overvalued
stuff, and therefore it did very well in.
Well, how do you think, as a podcaster, I've felt about that all along? You can't index into podcasts. You damn bloggers getting all the attention.
Well, you can now.
I know you can. I don't know
anyway,
if they
you should
do.
post transcripts.
Yeah.
You do post transcripts, don't you?
No, we don't. It's too expensive to make them. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Digression. If you search for Kevin Marks in the UK, there's someone in Scotland called Kevin Marks who horribly murdered his wife. And so it says Kevin Marks, programmer, Kevin Marks, murderer, whatever. There's the headlines getting mixed in. But in the sidebar, there's a little thing of, maybe it's just for me, but there's a little thing, did you mean this Kevin Marks? Because there's a knowledge pad for me, right? There's little people thingies, widgets you got on the side. Click here for more about this Kevin Marks. So I click that, and it keeps some of the murderer bits as well. So it's basically saying I'm a murderer.
Oh, yeah.
I've got another friend who's an academic, who's got a fairly she's got a not an unusual name, but a fairly common name. But she shares a name with someone who was kidnapped as a child.
Right.
So when she searches for her name, it shows a sidebar box for the kidnap victim, but with her photos, because there are no photos of the.
And the problem is, because it comes from Google, it's given weight that it doesn't deserve. And this is what this paper says. I'm going to quote another line from that same section. However, machine training systems can and frequently do produce output that is inaccurate, yet both fluent and, again, seemingly coherent in its own right to a consumer who either doesn't see the source text or cannot understand the source text on their own. When such consumers therefore mistake the meaning attributed to the machine MT output as the actual communicative intent of the original text's author, real-world harm can ensue. And they bring up the case of a Palestinian man arrested by Israeli police after a MT translated his Facebook post, which said good morning in Arabic, to hurt them in English and attack them in Hebrew, because the police didn't understand that is not an authoritative translation, and it's based on faulty machine training.
But also, a lot of the parallel language training data for Arabic was based on Defense Department sources and things like that.
Machine that's translation,
Corpora.
Yeah. So MT is machine translation. It's LMs is learning models. So this is a good paper. Actually, I had not read it. No, it's definitely worth reading. I've also put a blog post I wrote 11 years ago, which was this same kind of thing. But I found a bunch of literary things that refer to this. But basically, these language models are sort of stringing bits of text together. And there's a great thing in Michael Frayn's Tin Man book from '65, which is literally describing how this could work in his imagined future. He wrote this sort of parody of people who were building computers to write prose. So when you see these, so here in our innocence, Jason and I and Jeff are watching this Lambda. We think it's dopey that the planet Pluto is talking, but we didn't really understand the greater underlying hazard of this. Did you watch it and go, oh boy, there they go again?
Yeah, no, that was it. I mean, this is the thing. They
didn't get it.
Well, they got it, but they were saying this demo as well. They probably know it's
They know it's bullshit.
he was trying to juggle the moon or something. He did give some little caveats after he'd shown the working demo.
Right.
And a lot of these things is you run it 3 or 4 times and you pick the one that's good. When have you seen?
That's what GPT. If you looked at all the output of GPT, most of it was garbage, but there were occasional gems. But
it would be, it will give you bits and pieces. But this is the worry of it is not only is the corpus drawn on the web and the web is full of lies and nonsense and QAnon and whatever. But also, as these things start getting built, people are going to start using them to generate more web pages to, create sites about something that Google will find. And that was always an issue. That was an issue with
people
before.
do it all the time. It's called Google bombing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll feed it into one language and back to a different language to get a different bit of prose, or they'll run it through an adjective dropper or whatever. And it tends to look nonsense, but it can be good enough to fool the search engine now. Now, as the search engine gets better and these other things get better at making up nonsense, you're basically building a distributed generative adversarial network. You're building a network that's trying to fool one computer with the output of another computer and iterating back and forth. And basically that's, we're filling the web with more and more of this stuff, and these generators are generating it, and the indexes are finding it and then feeding it into the next version generation, on we go. So, yeah, the fact that so much of the sort of public discourse is QAnon-like nonsense now is the worrying part of it for me.
The researchers say we call on NLP, natural language programming researchers, to carefully weigh these risks while pursuing this research direction, consider whether the benefits outweigh the risks, and investigate dual-use scenarios utilizing the many techniques of those from value-sensitive design, for example, that have been put forth. This is actually this is something that needs to be heard, and it's shameful that Google fired these people.
And I still don't understand. Forget they violated a rule or didn't violate a rule or anything. Obviously, Google's a bigger company than that, and older than, smarter than that. What was the danger to Google in this? That this is the essence of a language company. This is the essence of the problem.
Kind of an indictment of everything they've been doing.
They do has danger. Is that?
Yeah, they're basically saying this large thing that you think is a significant part of your business is potentially dangerous. And I think the row was, you need to tone this down a bit and say, but we're working on it, wasn't it? That was the gist of what Dean was telling them. And then that got escalated into firing and endless ridiculousness, which was probably almost certainly them treating people differently for their racial background and so on. That was sort of a clear part of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it does worry me, and it worries me when Google is sort of trying to make that the centerpiece of what they're showing, and sort of sweeping this aside and not discussing it. So I think we need to keep reading this stuff and thinking about it very carefully. There was Bruce Sterling wrote a thing in Wired yesterday as well, which was his worry is we're starting to teach the AIs how to sort of fuzz code and experiment with code and hack, and so they're gonna start. When you do that, they're going to start doing things that people wouldn't think of, because that's what they do. If you give something like DeepMind a constrained domain like a game, then it knows what the rules are, it knows what the win condition is, it can do very well. If you don't specify that very clearly, if you give it a real world problem, then it will probably find loopholes in the rules you didn't even realize were there, because you wouldn't even think that could be done. And there's lots of examples of that from AIs and generative learning, things like that in the past. So there is the worry that if you start getting them to debug code, write code, run testing, they're going to end running the financial system, or creating even more non-scalable financial panics than we have at the moment. So
okay,
I'm putting it down again here. Yeah.
Fascinating. I guess I hate to move on because it's such an important topic, but I think we can move on. It's I think it's fascinating, and it is. I'm glad we could get you, Kevin. We should have you on more often, I guess, is the best thing I can say.
Yeah, I think the problem was that I was traveling to London a lot, which meant I wasn't anywhere near a good connection. So that may be less of an issue at the moment.
Good. Where are you living now?
I'm in North Yorkshire. You can
still in
see,
Yorkshire.
See behind me.
Those are the moors, the famous moors of Yorkshire.
Yes, that's the top of Rosebery Topping, which is just around the corner here.
Be careful.
Those are the moors?
Well, it's the edge of the moors. No, the moors are flat, but they're on top of hills. So that's the edge of the moor. So this is like Rosebery Topping, which is a local hill that is like moorland, and then it looks down over the field. So I'm looking from the top of that across to the sea.
So it's like a plateau?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either, Stacey. I thought they were flat too. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like, oh my gosh, all my reading of British literature has just been upended.
All I know is stay away. If you hear any hounds, stay well away. Okay, that's all I know.
They're kind of like the chaparral you get in California, except that it's a different climate, so it's not as dry. So when you get the hills that they're high enough that they don't have trees on, they've just got scrubby bits.
But they're green.
But they're green because it's wet, and so they have heather on, and they have like scrubby little bushes and things. And
peat bogs? Would peat bogs appear on the moors, or would they be on ground level?
They'll be lower down.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you could.
I just didn't know moors had height.
It's kind of pathetic, but basically, our entire knowledge of Britain comes from literature written in the 19th century. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, you can watch All Creatures Great and Small.
Love it, and that's in Yorkshire.
That's set near here. Yeah.
I watched the original, which I loved many, many, many years ago, and they've remade it. I wish they would make more.
Y'all know my opinion on this.
I know. That's because you know what? This is a deep personal childhood trauma. Not related to the quality of the literature or the TV show. I'm just saying.
It wasn't trauma. It was just like a realization that my chosen career path was not the right one.
You weren't?
I don't like sticking my hand up orifices.
Yeah, well, and there is admittedly,
and you should be grateful for learning that.
There's quite a bit of that in All Creatures Great and Small, but it is not, in fact, the best part of it or anything. It's not the thing I tuned in
It's just the part she focused on.
It was very distracting. I was like, oh no. Oh. Okay.
More problems for Waymo. I'm gonna go with the chat room on this one. Scooter X posting this hysterical story from earlier this week. A driverless Waymo's Google's self-driving enterprise got stuck in traffic and then tried to run away from its support crew. This is in Chandler, Arizona. It got stuck at an intersection. The company sent a roadside assistance team to extract it. When the crew arrived, the vehicle started to drive away before pulling over and completely blocking a 3-lane road. It lost its mind. And in fact, if you want, you can watch the video. It's on YouTube. I'll turn the volume down on this one. This is, I guess there was a guy in the car at the time.
Isn't there an off switch?
So he's this is a construction zone. He at one point he says, well, this is interesting. I actually have seen this guy's videos. He takes Waymos and then posts on Reddit and elsewhere videos of his experience in the self-driving vehicle, which most of the time is pretty, normal.
Banal.
Freaky, but normal.
Occasionally terrifying. I don't know if we want to watch the whole thing. Let me see where. Let's first go to the difficulty that it found. An unprotected left. Okay. Right lane change. It stops at a traffic cone apparently. So he called support. The rider called support, and it said our roadside assistance team is 6 minutes away. See, there it is. It's stuck. It's not moving because of this. Apparently, this orange traffic cone is confusing it. And then when the roadside assistance, there's the cone, by the way.
There's the cone.
Yeah. It gets stuck behind another cone. Here's the roads. You can turn up the audio.
Now it's blocking the entire road.
It isn't.
Okay.
This poor guy. Now, what happens if you're the passive driver
if
in there?
If he gets out to get rid of that, then it drives off without him.
You feel some responsibility. Okay, here's. Car makes a turn. Our team is working to get you moving, figuring this out. God, this would be really kind of... We're going to have to edit this to make this interesting.
So it backed out.
And now it's blocking the whole lane instead of half of it.
Actually, now it does look like it's confirmed.
Roadside assistance finally arrives.
I like this.
So now they're going to be going to exit the vehicle and enter the autonomous specialist side.
Okay.
Exit on the autonomous specialist's side.
Gotcha.
Okay, so there's an
Formerly known as the driver.
Look at the wheels doing something. I'm a little nervous about the wheels trying to...
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get out of the car.
I want to see it off.
It's the guy got out of the van, and now the vehicle's leaving.
Oh, he got...
The car took off again?
yes. Well, a little bit, and then...
This is exactly what I'm afraid of.
This is...
Don't they have a control button where they can shut it down?
They would
just say...
I don't even know what's
Apparently
going
they
on anymore.
don't.
Hal?
That's probably
Hal?
Well, isn't this the Silicon Valley thing where it drives into a container and goes into an island?
It's just like the TV show, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like you're at the mercy of this thing that's lost its mind.
It actually reminds me of how old people drive. In the sense that, like,
No,
when you throw something new, or a very young driver, where you throw something new and they have to pause and
Yeah, we're experiencing that right now with Michael. He's our 18-year-old. The thing is, the people of Chandler, Arizona are so used to these idiot Waymo vehicles just doing dumb things that they're just kind of driving around it.
I assume they have, like, instead of student driver, they have, like, AI driver stickers
They
on
got
them.
big things on the roof.
Waymo.
You know it's a Waymo. Yeah, it says Waymo on the side. You know it's...
hazardous. Yeah. And I guess he's got to do the full walk around, too.
You can see behind him there's an emergency truck. I don't know if you can see it, but...
Should be able to get into that driver's.
Okay.
The Waymo operators...
That's just what I've seen them do in the past. Just walk all the way around the vehicle and then,
Apparently it's happened to him before. Anyway, you should watch the video.
The car should not take off at this point. Should not move.
Should not move.
Should not move.
Should is the operative verb.
He owes $30 for this ride. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and when this happens to you, does the service team take you where you were trying to go?
I don't know. You certainly don't want to call another Waymo, do you?
I see.
I probably would not.
So,
we go.
So he's actually blurred the picture of the support driver and won't play his voice.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is I'm with the Waymo Roadside Support. I'm going to try and get you out of this situation as safely as we possibly can. Excellent. Thank you.
I think you should have left the guy's voice, and the guy's going, why did I make him do that?
Yes.
Now he's trying to drive the car.
I just need to make sure that you have drop-off destination for Joel.
I just got in the car.
Oh, anyway. This is, At least it didn't get in an accident. It just...
And I'm pulling it up right now.
It misfired.
Yes, I do have it.
So to speak. All right, that's fine. We've had enough. Thank you very much. We're gonna wrap this up because Stacy's got a thing to go to. So
you don't have to.
No, I insist. Besides, 2 hours of this is more than enough. Believe me, I don't want that. TPUs.
Well,
do we care? They updated their TPUs. Nah. I like it that they're going
better
for
AI.
I like it that they're going for carbon-free energy. Good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that was kind of it.
That's kind of the whole story. Should we play the changelog music? And I'll just run through it.
Make it the fastest.
The world's fastest changelog. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Google changelog.
The Google changelog.
Actually, the very first item on the changelog is something I'm pretty excited about. Google Photos got updated. They did talk about that. They've added a new locked folder, so you can put all your nudes in there. Unclear who it's locked from. Is it locked from Google? Does Google have the keys? We'll have to find out. Seems like they probably do. I'm just saying. Historically difficult to do encrypted cloud. They have new memories, and they previewed something which was extremely creepy. And I think it's really to get parity with Apple. So Apple has the live photos feature. When you take a picture with the iPhone, if this is turned on, and it is by default, it snaps many pictures, picks the best still out of that becomes the still. But if you press and hold the still, you can see a couple of seconds of video before and after. Very nice. So Google pointed out that a lot of times when you take pictures of the kids or the family, you take a bunch of images trying to find the best one. Well, they're going to take those images, interpolate frames in between them, basically turning these images into a morph, which, if you ask me, always looks creepy. So this is called cinematic moments.
Deep fake.
It's not a deep fake. It's a morph. But, morphing.
Well, what's between the two things is faked.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, you're right.
Yes.
What's there is not real. It's interpolated.
It's a fast fake.
It's a fast, actually, if you've ever done morphing, which has been around for decades, It can be very slow. The nice thing is it's a pretty quick morph, I guess. Well, it's doing it in the background, so we don't know how fast it is. Presumably, it's quick. Google has also added a way to unlock your BMW. Again, parity with Apple, which also can unlock your BMW from the phone. But so far, it's only BMW that's adopted these phone as key, car key solutions with your phone. I think that's about it. Kevin, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to bring up anything you think. You brought up a lot, so I appreciate your appearance here today on a very short notice. Ant Pruitt taking the day off because he got his second COVID vaccine, his sequel injection, as we call it, and is a little under the weather.
And it's working for, and he knows it's working for him.
It's working.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's good news. Good sign. Yeah.
Google did announce.
My wife said she couldn't wait to feel bad for a day.
I know. I was disappointed I didn't. I thought, did I get the placebo? What happened? Android now powers 3 billion devices. Google I/O 2 years ago was 2.5 billion. The year before, 2 billion. So they're growing. 3 billion devices. And of course, they say that to remind everybody that when Apple says 1 billion phones in your pockets, y'all. But
what's important about this is Benedict Evans in a tweet added it up and said that there are 3 billion Android devices, about 90% of which are phones. Apple has 1 billion plus. There's another 700 to 800 million Android phones in China. So the total base is now 4.5 billion out of 5.7 billion adults, which is to say that we are finally now at the fabled last billion.
Wow. Last billion.
Billion.
Yeah.
Well, in the next billion, it's the last
billion. Wow. That's pretty amazing. And those people probably don't ever want a smartphone. Or can't afford one.
Or they're just too young for them right now.
Yeah. Well, he's talking about adults. There's more children in the world.
A lot more.
Yeah. A few more. Yeah. I think we can wrap this sucker up.
You haven't played any drums yet.
Oh, wait a minute. I was doing the changelog. I was right in the middle of the changelog. I only did one thing. Sorry. God, I'm an idiot.
Jeez.
Thank you for keeping me on the track.
Because otherwise the universe ends up in disorder for a whole week. And bad things will happen. It's like a Stephen King novel.
When you open the portal, you have to remember to close it.
Gotta close it. There are 5 new Google Maps updates. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, no, we're still in the change.
Reduce hard braking with routing updates. Walk this way with enhancement to live view. Spot busy areas at a glance. I thought that was kind of cool. Although the Spanish steps are always busy. A map tailored to you, which means if it's the morning, they'll show you coffee. If it's night, they'll show you a burger. Of course, immediately the folks in our Discord said, but what about breakfast for dinner? What are they going to show you then? And that's the new stuff in Maps. We talked about Google's new workspaces, the Smart Canvas. We talked about Lambda. Better Together is kind of Google's response to Windows Your Phone that allows your phone and your computer to pair together, to talk to each other, move between your phone and Chromebook with ease, unlock your car. We mentioned that. So that's the Better Together segment. Google is now using Duplex to fix your stolen passwords. What? I missed this one. This was in the Chrome segment.
Well, this is where they can take on your passwords and then they can fix things automatically for you.
No. This is something else. This is
something else. Oh,
this is the calling thing. Duplex was when you called people and they had they called
powered by
AI called on your
Duplex
behalf.
on the web. Assistant takes over the tedious parts of web browsing, scrolling, clicking, filling forms. So it is what you thought it was. It is fixing your passwords automatically for you. So I always thought Duplex was about voice, but
me too. I guess it's just about AI.
It's just about AI. So there. We mentioned the RSS follow button now coming to Chrome and Canary soon. Google search has added a new Easter egg. No, stop. I want to show this. If you go to google.com, then you can play the drums and enter DVD screensaver. That's really, everybody loves the DVD screensaver, right? The game where you watch the screen. Oh, maybe. Huh. Oh, there it is. There it is. I'm watching the results, and there's a Google. Remember the DVD screensaver? You're playing the game where you're waiting for it to hit the corner. Of course, I don't. And that's because it's it's kind of more of a squarish thing. I don't know what it'll look like when Google. Should we just watch this till it hits the corner? It'll be just about as exciting as this show. Oh, just missed. Just missed. Yeah, really. This is amusing, isn't it? So,
three old guys and Stacy watching a Google go around the screen.
Watching a Google. Stacy,
I'm actually scrolling through Twitter.
Stacy, did you ever do this, or is it just us old guys watch the? Did you even have a DVD?
I didn't know there was a game. I mean, I know I had DVDs.
Yeah, and you remember that the DVD. I
had VCR tapes.
If you left the TV on, the DVD screensaver would come on, bounce around. Yeah, and I didn't know there was a game until fairly recently. So. But apparently there was. I think it came from the office.
I think calling it a game is a bit of a stretch, but yes.
It's a game for people who have no games.
I think if you've been smoking a lot of special cigarettes, it's much more
That's what it
fun
feels
game.
like. Something a bunch of people who smoked weed or a bunch of people who are drinking would do.
Whoa. Almost. No. Okay, we've seen enough of that. And that's now you can play it. The Google changelog. All right, next. What's next? Our picks of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start our picks of the week. Now, Kevin, you came here at short notice in the middle of the show, so... Oh, you do have a pick. You're amazing. What is your pick?
My pick is the map of the internet. So you remember XKCD did this a long time ago. Someone's made a current map of the internet. There's a link top right that lets you.
Wow! Look at that.
So it's this huge map with like different land masses with.
It looks like a real map, but it's websites.
And they're scaled to approximate number of users, I think. So you can see. So
there's
you might
browsers.
Find in there if you look really carefully.
Do you think it's in there? It should be. I would hope so.
You're on the internet.
Oh wow. This is from halcyonmaps.com. Actually, this is one of those places where I'm going to spend more time browsing their catalog because I love maps. Look at the bottom where Antarctica would be the dark web. Wikipedia is like Greenland.
So I think basically they want you to buy this and put it on your wall, which would be fun. I may well end up doing that.
Here's the Q zone.
Really what you need is something that actually changes over time. So you need a display that links to software that's continuously updating this.
Yes.
Because that would be.
But also, I want the version of this in SVG, so I actually search the text in it rather than actually.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
But obviously,
if it were a touch screen, you could zoom in.
Here's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, VKontakte. The Russian version thereof, DuckDuckGo.
Zoom is a pretty big island out of the ocean.
Zoom Island, it's a big old one, but not as big as you-know-who, the island of Google. It's actually
not an island, that's a continent.
Google Stan. Yeah, wow. That's really fun. Error correcting plateau. Google Contacts, Android TV. Google has a lot.
That took a lot of work.
Somebody put a lot of effort in this. There's TikTok.
Yeah, this is clearly a major effort. It's a beautiful
Twitch.
thing.
Yeah.
I think I will get a poster for the wall.
That's pretty cool. And it all looks like one of those old-timey maps of the new world. And then here's a list of major websites blocked in China. Very handy. Top website languages, internet users, percent of population. It is now greater than 90%. Oh, no, I see here. This is a smaller map. And Canada is the only one. Canada and the UK are greater than 90%. And we're actually only, down in the lower numbers.
No, Canada looks like it's at 70 to 80%.
You think?
Again, your colors?
It's kind of a darker blue. Who's 90% then? Who's the darkest blue of all?
Well, I think that's up there in Scandinavia.
Norway. Yeah.
Finland?
All right. Largest companies by revenue, highest selling video games. Tetris number 1, Minecraft number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 number 3.
Oh, this is the same chart only now. So it was 2006 versus 2. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It's changed. Created by Martin Vargic of halcyonmaps.com. Good pick of the week. I love this. I love the colophon, which features 4chan, Google, Susan Wojcicki, Pierre Omidar. That's great. Stacey, your thing this week, you teased it a little bit earlier. I'm dying to see it now.
Okay. I'm very sad to tell you that right now the site that I was going to send you to is offline.
It's down.
So I'm going to punt that for next week. I know. I'm really sad. Like, I was just on it yesterday. Boo. So now I'm going to send you to something just bonkers. I don't have this because I'm not crazy, but it is the High Interiors is making a bed. Oh, I didn't put it in the rundown because I suck, Jason. I'm sorry. It is a $13,000 to $40,000 bed that also acts as a, what's it called? Screen. So if you click on the link I dropped in there.
Sounds uncomfortable.
It is a home theater bed. Oh no, because it's got sensors in the bed that help you adjust. Like if you're doing the television, it will raise you up. And then you can watch things in your basically it's a pod. It's a home entertainment pod that also is your bed.
I need that. That's for parents of small children.
A certain number of people will be excited by it.
Yes.
Can you not find it, Leo? I do not have the bed, so I cannot show it to you.
What's the URL again?
It is, the site that has the best pictures is CE Pro.
But that's down?
I put a link in the rundown.
Oh, I see. Here it is.
Line 188.
$40,000. Wait a minute.
Well, it's up to $40,000.
Oh, depends on this TV probably.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so if you...
Whoa!
If you scroll through, you will see...
Smart home theater bed. Let's view the slideshow, baby. Smart home theater bed. You want to come over to my place? I have a smart home theater bed. We can Netflix and chill. Wow.
I've been fascinated by beds lately. There's been I was looking at
it automatically adjusts the temperature.
Look at that.
Has voice control.
It's fancy.
It's actually kind of cool. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I know y'all are making fun of it, but if you had a studio apartment, it'd be great.
If you spend a third of your life in bed, you deserve a smart bed.
I think you'd spend more like half your life in bed if you had this thing.
Oh, you might. Look at that. It's got a nice, it also has a concierge service that starts when the person wakes up by providing a small clock, weather updates, and traffic information right there on the screen. So it's more than just a bed. This is maybe where I'm going to retire to. I was thinking Seattle, but maybe this bed would be...
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, maybe this bed would be my retirement home. It costs enough. Wow.
You've heard about tiny homes, right?
That's tiny home, big bed. For a home, it's small, but for a bed, it's huge. That's my pick.
Yeah.
I love that. That's your pick, but I like it too. I like it too.
Yeah, if I can get you to buy it, feel free. Let me know
Pruitt
how it goes.
has sent us his pick of the week. He couldn't be here. He apologizes. He's feeling a little under the weather, but he sent us this
punk, as my folks used to say.
$15 if you would like to buy this. It looks like a quarter or a token. It's round, made of wood, and burned into it are the letters TUIT. So if you want to get around to it, You can go to aweirdguy.com. Get it? I'll get around to it. You know what?
We got to it.
I probably shouldn't have mentioned it because now my wife's going to buy it. And every time I say I'll get around to it, she's going to say, oh, no, I already got you one. Number of the week.
Number of the week. Okay, I'm going to go with 5.
Numero
which is
cinco. You only have
New
4.
York Times. New York Times. No, not 5 numbers, just the number 5.
Yeah.
The New York Times in its, I think, expose on Apple in China. So there were 5 takeaways about what Apple does there.
Oh, this was kind of mind-boggling. Yeah.
Apple stores customer data on Chinese government servers.
Yes.
2, Apple now shares customer data with the Chinese government.
Yes.
3, Apple proactively removes apps to placate Chinese officials.
Yes.
4, Apple banned apps from a Communist Party critic. And 5, tens of thousands of iPhone apps have disappeared in China. So this is the price of doing business in China.
And we should mention in the article, Apple says, well, okay, we had to take those apps down because they were illegal, but that data is encrypted. So there, they kind of denied it. Sort of was a non-denial, but they kind of denied it.
Yeah.
But got to, truth in advertising, got to mention that.
That, and I'm waiting for the $2.95 Twitter Blue, $2.99 per month.
$2.99.
Whatever it is, that's so cheap. I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it.
Meanwhile,
I like Twitter.
The Google DVD screensaver is still going around. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hey, a special thanks to Kevin Marks, who joined us on very short notice halfway through the show. IndieWeb.org. Is it still going strong, Kevin?
Still going very strong, yeah. Having lots of fun with that.
In fact, I've been seeing more and more IndieWeb stuff, which is great. Really, really happy to see people starting to take to it. We, of course, are on the Fediverse with our twit.social Mastodon instance. I use webhooks all the time. There's a lot of great stuff thanks to the work of IndieWeb. If there's an IndieWeb meeting near you, it will be posted at indieweb.org. Thank you, Kevin.
Right. Well, they're online at the moment, so it's easy to join.
I forgot.
Events.indieweb.org, yes.
Yeah.
There's one coming up tonight, West Coast, in about 2 hours.
I guess really that's the only geographic thing is it needs to be in your time zone.
Yeah, well, I may stay up for it.
Yeah. This one, this one's 6 p.m. Pacific.
6 p.m. Pacific, yes, in 2 hours.
Yeah. Homebrew Website Club. And it's a great club, by the way. You know what? I might pop in myself. That sounds very cool.
Cool. That'd be great.
Very cool.
Great to see you.
Yeah. I'm a big supporter. I think it's really important that we have an open web. Mr. Jeff Jarvis. He is, in fact, the Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Our Blob Opera rendition. Thank you, Jeff. BuzzMachine.com. Frank Sinatra once called him a bum. Former TV guide critic, Jeff Jarvis, ladies and gentlemen. And, of course, Stacey Higginbotham, who's going to run off right now to see what Google has to say.
She's going to be working.
I'm going to be
having cacio e pepe. She's going to be working.
She's going to be working to see what Google has to say about home automation. Eat something delicious. Have a waffle. Watch Google. It's the best way to go to Google I.O. Thank you so much. Stacey on IoT.com. Subscribe to her newsletter. Listen to the podcast with Kevin Toffel. We do Twig every Wednesday at about 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch us do it live at twit.tv/live. There's also an audio feed there. Chat with us while we're doing it at irc.twit.tv. On-demand shows available at twit.tv/twig or on YouTube. There's a Twig channel, or subscribe in your favorite podcast application, and that way you'll get it automatically the minute it's done. I would appreciate it if you leave us a 5-star review if your app allows that. It's always nice. Helps us with discovery. I'd also like to mention that we have been having great fun with Club Twit, which is our brand new kind of way to support Twit. We've always had a tip jar, things like this. Club Twit gives you some additional benefits. You get ad-free versions of all of our shows, all of them, audio or video. You get a great Discord, and we always have fun in the Discord. We've got a stage here. We allow people to converse with us. There's chat subjects on everything, all of our shows, but even many other geeky things. And Stacy, don't forget, we're going to do a book club with you. We want to do that in the Discord too. So don't forget that. Let's get that happening.
Yeah. Next week I'll announce a book. Sorry, y'all. I forgot.
That's all right. No. Next week. I will announce a book for you to read, and you could probably read it if you start right now. Between now and Friday, I'm going to be interviewing Andy Weir, the author of what I think is already a science fiction classic. Just came out this month, Project Hail Mary. He wrote The Martian. He wrote Artemis. Andy has agreed to join us for a special version of Triangulation. It'll be our third time interviewing him. This Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC. You'll be able to watch it on our live stream. When the show is done, we'll put it out as a additional Triangulation. We haven't done a show in a while. We'll also put it out on the Twit Events feed because it is an event. But there is a special deal for Club Twit members. You'll be able to ask questions of Andy. We'll set up a stage and give Andy and you a chance to converse. So if you are not yet a Club Twit member, there is still time to join. Find out more at twit.tv/clubtwit. There's the Discord, the special feed at Twit Plus feed, and of course all the ad-free feeds. $7 a month. I think it's a good deal, and it really, honestly helps us do things like this Andy Weir interview. Thank you, everybody. Again, twit.tv/clubtwit. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you are interested in checking out all things smart home and Internet of Things, then you should check out Smart Tech Today, the podcast I, Micah Sargent, do with my co-host Matthew Casanelli. It's all about the smart home and improving your automations.